emerald green, inaccessible cliffs. A canyon landscape like that of the Wild West, and in the center, one of the wettest places on the planet. That's Kauai, the oldest and most mountainous of all the Hawaiian Islands. And Kauai is also a favorite with the Dream Factory. Hollywood stars and directors have taken full advantage of the island's magnificent landscapes, featuring them in more than 200 movies. To this day, many parts of the island remain virtually inaccessible, so that, for the most part, Kauai has been able to preserve its natural beauty. One man knows Kauai better than almost any other. For the past 15 years, Eddie Abubo has worked as a location scout, scouring his island home for backdrops and film locations.
My requirements as a location scout and location manager are really fun because going out to finding the different spots that are required by the certain producer, art director, whatever, makes my job challenging and fun at the same time.
Eddie's client list is a long one. It includes such luminaries as Steven Spielberg, Pierce Brosnan, and Robert Redford. He's found plenty of locations here in the past. Waimea Canyon. Aerial shots are especially popular in the Grand Canyon of the Pacific. And for Eddie, there are always specific challenges involved.
A lot of times when we're dealing with locations that require aerials or helicopters, you always have to make sure everybody is on their guard and always has safety as their #1 priority. To me, that's the biggest consideration. Is the location safe enough to accomplish your production needs?
For Hollywood, Kauai is the absolute #1 among all the Hawaiian Islands. And Eddie knows why.
Kauai is the home of 2 dozen microclimates. Here we have like the arid high desert, red dirt, elevation, even cool weather. 20 minutes away, we have white sandy beaches, tropical beaches. An hour away, we have tropical rainforests. We have so many diverse type of locations that could double for Vietnam, the Philippines, Australia, half a dozen other continents.
Born in the Philippines, Eddie came to Kauai with his parents at the age of 2. For a while, he also tried his luck as an actor in Hollywood, but eventually homesickness got the better of him. He had to come back to the island where he grew up. And it was impossible for him to work as an actor only on Kauai. So Eddie decided to switch professions and became a location scout instead. This afternoon, he's on his way to a location in the north of the island that's historically interesting for a variety of reasons. The Hawaiian king, Kamehameha III, raised cattle here on the vast Jurassic Kahili Ranch. That was back in the 19th century. 150 years later, this is where Steven Spielberg let his dinosaurs loose. Eddie's come here to meet with one of the foremen, Eric Bailey.
This tree, on 3,000 acres of ranch, Spielberg decided would be the opening scene for Jurassic Park.
Out of all the millions of trees on this particular property, this one stood out as having some special feature or character in order to shoot the opening scene.
Right. And the fantastic thing is the owner is dedicated to leaving this place exactly like it is. You know, the history of this place was Kamehameha IV gave it to the Lucas family, a missionary family. And the guy that bought the ranch from the missionary family is only the third person to own this property. So Kamehameha IV to the Lucas family,
Wow.
to the guy that owns the property now.
Wherever you are on this circular island, the sea is never more than 19 kilometers away. (182 kilometers of coastline. That's plenty of room for 60,000 inhabitants. However, some stretches of the beach are occasionally designated no-go areas. Michelle Bain looks after some very special visitors to Kauai's unspoiled beaches. The 31-year-old marine biologist leads the island's monk seal task force. As soon as a seal is sighted near the shore or on a beach, Michelle sets off, often accompanied by one of the task force volunteers, like Karen Trimley. She got the call this morning. A monk seal had been sighted off the beach near her home in the northwest of the island. Together with Michelle, the retired primary school teacher helps cordon off a protection zone so the seal can sleep on undisturbed, gathering energy for its nocturnal activities, hunting and mating. Americans love things to be organized, which has its good side, and these unusual sunbathers are in need of protection. Monk seals are the only type of seal that spend the whole year in tropical and subtropical waters. They're already extinct in the Caribbean.
I personally have wanted to work with marine mammals since I was 11 years old, so I'm happy to be here working with this critically endangered species. The Hawaiian monk seal is the most endangered marine mammal in U.S. waters, so I feel honored that I'm trusted with part of the job of saving them, and with that honor comes a big responsibility. I'm taking that very seriously, to take every step possible to spread the word about the seal and combat each of their threats as best as we can.
Kauai was the first of the Hawaiian islands to be settled by Polynesian seafarers. As the monk seal continues its nap on the beach, a descendant of these explorers is steering his fishing boat into the little harbor in the next bay. What hardly anyone knows is that for centuries, Hawaii was a sovereign state. Up until 1893, the island nation was ruled by a queen with the fine-sounding name of Lili Uokalani. Then the Americans came and forced her to abdicate, something that lives on in the memories of many Hawaiians today. Nelson Armitage is one of them. He's been out all night, fishing on the ocean. Now he's waiting for his father-in-law, David Sproat. Sproat's extended family have been living in this part of Kauai for more than 300 years. Nelson is still buzzing with adrenaline on the ride home, talking about the big fish he almost caught.
I was waiting.
Oh, I lose on Ono.
Really?
Yeah, right. But that's why it took me a long time.
You hooked one?
For Nelson and David, fishing is far more than just a profession.
Oh, it's our lifestyle. You know, we refer to the ocean as our refrigerator, our icebox. We go out there to get fresh food. And this is the change. A lot of the people that are coming here, they're coming here for recreation. But for us, we live in sync with the ocean like with the land. You know, we gather out there. That's where we go for our food. And there's a conflict now between recreation and living and gathering from the ocean. You know, a lot of the recreational, because they turn it into a business, right?
Back at home, David and Nelson are already expected. David's wife Linda was fretting about her son-in-law.
Oh, I was worried about you all night.
Nelson proudly shows the family his catch.
Good listening.
This is a tall.
Oh, you got one touchy too.
Yeah, they're perchy up.
The biggest fishes are Ronos, weighing a good 20 pounds each. They're a close relative of the mackerel, found here in the waters of Kauai. But for Nelson, a good catch like this is becoming increasingly rare. The fish stocks of Kauai have been diminishing for years.
No.
I catch
You know.
good Egypt the other day.
If
I think it's kind of going down in depleted.
yeah, getting depleted.
Yeah.
More people coming from America, not wanting to go home.
Well, not from Germany, luckily.
Yeah. Well, at least the Germans come visit and they go home.
The other guys, they forget to go home.
Yeah.
They say it with a smile, but they're perfectly serious. The last Hawaiians want more of a say in their own future. This is something that's particularly important for Nelson. He's heavily influenced by his father, who's the Minister of Foreign Affairs in the Hawaiian Kingdom government. Its goal is to achieve independence from the USA. Will this dream ever become a reality? Many people have their doubts. In any case, right now, other things are more important. Preparations have to be made for the big family barbecue this evening.
The Hawaiian culture of sharing is something that is how you say, is taught when you're a little kid in the family. That's like one of the golden rules when you're growing up, is that you're taught to share, not to be stingy. You don't, you know, or selfish, yeah. And yeah, just to be thoughtful of others and be grateful of what you've got. And if you have enough to share, then it's good to share, you know.
2 years ago, when Nelson celebrated his wedding here on the beach, there were more than 1,000 guests, most of them family. Every Hawaiian can trace his family tree back over several centuries. The Sproats and the Armitages have relatives on all the inhabited islands of the archipelago. Nelson would usually be out there too, surfing with his friends. Today, though, as chef's assistant, he simply has too much to do. The Hawaiian principle of sharing can be pretty exhausting for the one who's doing the work. Nelson's been hard at it for 4 hours now. David, the boss, checks that everything's in order. There are all kinds of different fish dishes, poached, grilled or raw, sushi style. This Hawaiian raw fish delicacy is known as poke.
Can't get any better than that.
It's natural thing.
Yeah, it's natural.
Family is a strong value in Hawaii. We have the extended family. You see everybody? All these other guys that come in, it's like part of the family. Like tonight to come to play music and stuff. So it's just a natural. I mean, that's
a natural Hawaiian.
Hawaiian family was important. Everything. That's what builds the community, the family.
David heads off into the kitchen. Like most people of his generation, he too speaks hardly any Hawaiian. His mother tongue was banned back when he was at school. But some words have persisted into the present day. Uno is one of them. It's not just the name of the fish. It also means delicious, which is just how the spread looks this evening. Ono in soya sauce. Head chef David seems to be satisfied. Saturday evening at the Sprouts. After the evening prayer, the buffet is open. Everything here is homemade, from the food to the Ohana's evening entertainment program. The Ohana is the extended Hawaiian family. For David, the host, friends are as much a part of it as his son-in-law, Nelson. They built the house together 2 years ago, on a piece of land that's been in the family for more than 300 years. The high point of the evening is the improvised hula performance. Christian missionaries once banned the hula. They didn't understand that for Hawaiians, the hula is far more than just a dance. Every movement has a specific meaning. David's grandchildren, Lainey and Layla, are telling whole stories through their dancing, some of them hundreds of years old. Next morning, location scout Eddie Abubu has received a call. A film director in Los Angeles has asked him to find a high plateau overlooking a jungle. Before he heads off, Eddie goes through his archive at home. He's already got an idea. Eddie's been living and working on Kauai for more than 15 years. He's catalogued possible locations in thousands of photos, with many different captions. And if he finds his research isn't getting him anywhere, Eddie knows who to call.
If I can't find a particular location that satisfies all the requirements that the client wants, I go and I ask the hunters, the pig hunters, the goat hunters for where can I find this particular thing. I go and I talk to different people who maybe know a part of the island better than I do, or know the interior of the island a little bit better than I do, in order to try to capture and find that certain location.
But this time, he doesn't need to. Eddie soon thinks of where he might find the plateau they're looking for. He heads off to a hidden rainforest in the remote northeast of Kauai. In the old days, all this belonged to the king as well. Now the forest, like a lot of Kauai, is privately owned. This area is normally off limits to visitors. Not a problem for Eddie. He knows the owners. Eddie's not worried that he might one day run out of locations.
The island is still very, very young. You know, there are still many areas and places and that Kauai can double for, you know.
Not far from these towering cliffs is where the Oscar winner and Lord of the Rings director Peter Jackson filmed the remake of King Kong. Eddie's optimistic. This high plateau could be just what the director's looking for. This is where the hero of the planned action film will arrive after he escapes from the jungle. It's not yet certain who is going to play the lead, but it's possible that Eddie might find himself meeting up with one of his old acquaintances.
I've had the good fortune of meeting quite a few people. Harrison Ford was here for about 6 weeks. Robert Redford. My neighbor is Pierce Brosnan. And they're all really, all really great people. They're all their own personality. And again, some like to be more private than others, and some like to be around people, just like you and I.
Kauai is a natural treasure trove. Tropical rainforest, endless sandy beaches, coral reefs, and towering rock formations. In the center of Kauai is a mountain that's seldom visible. Mount Waialeale is usually hidden in a thick band of cloud. The weather can change dramatically here in the space of just a few minutes. Matt Johnson, a scientist, is one of the few who regularly attempts to reach the 1,500-meter high plateau at the top of the mountain. He and his pilot, Jim Hobbs, are taking a risk every time they fly there. In the past few years, many helicopter pilots have crashed in the thick fog. Jim, too, has already had a crash. A quick stop just below the summit. Matt has a chat with some colleagues who are building a fence for him to keep wild boar off the high plateau. Back in the helicopter, the biologist soon spots the first wild boar. Up here, these pigs are his opponents. Over the past few years, they've become a real pest. No rain and reasonable visibility. An unusual day on Waialeale. This mountain is one of the wettest places on Earth. Matt has been studying this extraordinary virgin landscape for years now.
Kauai is the oldest island in Hawaii, and it has the highest rate of endemism out of all the islands, which means there are the most plants and animals on Kauai that don't exist anywhere else. It's extremely isolated, and these ecosystems grew in harmony without outside influences for hundreds of thousands of years. And just in the last few hundred years, these new plants from other areas and animals that the ecosystem isn't evolved to live in harmony with have come, and that's the threat that we face.
Matt inspects the protective fence. The fence is tremendously important for the future of the whole island. Waialeale is the heart of Kauai's natural irrigation system. The mountain stores water in the ground like a gigantic sponge. But this can only be done with the endemic vegetation. If the wild boar were to devour all the plants, the soil would erode, and Kauai would be turned into a wasteland.
This end of the fence isn't complete yet, as it is. The fence line will continue over this cliff and down along the ridge to a poly, a 3,000-foot cliff that will serve as a natural boundary. Inside the fenced area, the first step of our management is to remove the pigs from this area, and that'll give us the advantage then to also be able to remove the weed species. And we've built several traps up here to catch the pigs, and the last few times we've been up here, we haven't had any activity around the traps. We haven't caught any pigs. And just this morning we saw there was 4 pigs all kind of collected around one of the feeders waiting for it to go off. And that's a good sign. That means the next time we come up, we'll probably have some activity in the traps and be able to catch some of those pigs.
After 2 hours, Matt reaches the first wild boar trap. What he finds there is disappointing.
When I spin this, more corn should come out of the barrel. And as it is, it's getting wet in there. The corn is getting wet and it's swelling up, so it's not falling through to the bottom.
Matt has 2 hours to repair the trap before Jim picks him up. Jim's already at the heliport, preparing to head back. He's one of the few pilots who will fly to Waialeale, but he too had a crash 2 years ago.
You know, I did take some time off. It is an experience, you know, that's part of experience. Helicopters are very safe. It's what they're asked to do that is inherently dangerous. But if you do have a crash, normally, like an engine failure, which I've had a couple of those, whatever you hit, if you do this emergency procedure called an auto rotation, that the FAA, we practice constantly. If you do it, whatever you hit, you're doing 0 airspeed. So I've landed in the tops of the trees, but doing 0 airspeed. And, you know, so the survivability is very good. It's no fun, you know, and like I said, I took a little bit of time off after the last one.
In fact, that was the 3rd time Jim has had a crash. But nonetheless, he's never lost faith in his helicopter. He prepares for takeoff. And if any pilot can make it up to the mountain, it's Jim. No one has more experience with Waialeale. The peak is only a 20-minute flight away, in theory.